Welcome to Living the Empowered Life podcast. I'm your host, Tamiko Pugh, best-selling author, life coach to purpose-driven women, and empowerment influencer, affectionately called by many the Empowering Diva. Each week, I'm bringing you inspirational conversations as well as actionable tips, tools, and strategies that move you forward in all areas of life. I believe that empowerment comes from within and can be achieved by honoring yourself, your values, and expressing your talents and gifts. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. Now let's jump into today's episode of Living the Empowered Life podcast. In today's episode of Living the Empowered Life podcast, I'll be chatting with business coach Cami Guildner. Cami believes women's voices matter. She is a connector, a storyteller, a business coach for high-vibe women entrepreneurs, helping them to raise up their voice, vision, and visibility for impact and business growth. Cami is the founder of the Extraordinary Women Ignite Conference and host of the award-winning Extraordinary Women Radio. She is the best-selling author of Fire Dancer, Your Spiral Journey to a Life of Passion and Purpose. And she was named to the 2020 25 Most Powerful Women in Business list by the Colorado Women's Chamber of Commerce. We're going to go ahead and dive into our amazing conversation with Cami Guildner. Cami, welcome to Living the Empowered Life podcast. How are you?
Thank you. I'm great, Tamiko. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. I'm really excited about having you on today. Looking forward to diving into our conversation. I really think that the work you're doing as far as helping women entrepreneurs to really, what you would say, raise up their voice, their vision, and their visibility. I think that is so amazing. And so I can't wait to dive into this conversation and learn more about that today.
Thank you. I feel very honored to get to do the work that I do.
Absolutely. And so one of the first things I wanted to ask you was, how did you actually get into the work that you're doing with helping female entrepreneurs?
Well, I left the corporate world almost 15 years ago now, actually 15 years ago this month. So I had a long career as an executive in the software and information space. And I had this opportunity to leave. And it was an opportunity that was handed to me. And I always say that it was the best gift that came to me was as I got laid off. And second best gift was it was the year 2008, where there wasn't a lot of VP of marketing jobs left to be around at that time because all of the change that was happening in the business world. And so I got offered, this space outside of the corporate world where I had always been. And I had space and time to really do that deep inner work. And I always thought I was going to go back to the corporate world, but there was clearly something else that was calling to me that I had no idea what would unfold. I mean, if I was to look back 15 years from now, there's no way I would have envisioned what I'm doing today. And so there was this, I had time in nature, I had space for myself. I had, I lost a dear family member during that time that also brought about a lot of introspection. And with that came this idea and this awareness that I was supposed to be doing something different, and the pathway unfolded.
Wow, that is absolutely amazing. So you've been an entrepreneur for 15 years. That's awesome. Congratulations.
So, well, not quite that long because I took almost 2 years to figure out what the heck I was going to do. Mm-hmm. And so, but I have been doing it a long time, and so I've had my chops in this space of learning and growing and evolving, because I always say that it's some of the biggest life lessons I've ever had in my life have come from being an entrepreneur.
Wow. That is amazing. I love that you said the best gift is that I got laid off.
Yeah.
And I think oftentimes when things happen in life or any adversity, we look at it as something negative as opposed to looking at what is the lesson in this? How can I learn and grow from this? And so the best gift is being laid off is actually, it's amazing because it really pushed you into your purpose of entrepreneurship.
Yeah, and I wouldn't have obviously called it a gift at the time, but I think that's one of my lessons is that I really do believe the universe is conspiring for us and not, the world's not unfolding, it's really it's like it's opening up doorways for us if we really pay attention.
Always, always. And it's no matter what it is, we sometimes, again, we have to not look at those adversities as something that's bad that's happening to us, but what's the good that came out of it? Um, and I'll just be a little bit transparent. Even for me, some of the work that I do with domestic violence victims and survivors, and just the advocacy work that I do, it came out of my own personal experience. So I should have either, let it bring me down or allow that to really push me into my purpose. And so, just like being laid off, it was a gift. And
Yeah.
it was a gift. People are like, how was that?
That's a hard thing to say as a gift, but you're right. And it's like you're doing such amazing work now because of that journey. I mean, I was looking at the work you do and I'm like, oh my gosh, you're really doing great work.
Thank you. So are you. Which leads me to this whole thing that you do. Not a thing, but this strategy or this method that you do that you call Soul+Strategy. Can you tell us a little bit about Soul+Strategy?
Sure. So, as I mentioned, I had all of the linear strategic kind of approaches to business that I brought from, my former corporate days. And so I knew how to think linear, I can't even say that word, in a linear fashion. And I didn't really have a spiritual bone in my body when I left the corporate world. That was just not part of my world. And I found a really deep way to go inside and to learn, to start to tap into that over the course of the many years of being an entrepreneur. It's gone deeper and deeper and deeper. Initially, it was actually horses that brought me to spirituality of all things. I had been a long time life horse person. And so I found out that there was somebody that was teaching coaching with horses, teaching leadership with horses. And I was like, oh, that's the coolest thing ever. And so I went down that journey to become an equine guided coach as right out of the gate. And that was my pathway, if you will, into spirituality. I mean, I'd had horses my whole life, but I'd never really looked at them through the lens of them being our teacher and kind of getting into nature and letting nature be our teacher. And so that's where my spirituality was really started. And, from there, it's really grown and evolved in so many different ways. But that ability to be able to listen to our inner wisdom and to really tap into that purpose that we're meant to be doing in the world. I mean, just like you've done, you've found your purpose. And it's like we go through these journeys, this what I call a spiral journey. And you find what it is you're meant to be doing in the world, and you find how you're meant to be showing up to serve. And when we do that, we come into our business with such a different light, because there's this light inside of us that's really wanting to get out, this calling inside of us that's wanting to come out and do our best work, that light inside of us. And so when we can combine that light inside of us and the strategy, and then put the right strategies to grow our businesses, the foundations, the right brand, the right packaging and pricing and all those sorts of things, when we can mix both of those sorts of things, that's where we really get an alignment in growing our businesses. So bringing the soul side of things and the strategy side of our work together when we're building a business really gives us a different foundation.
Wow, I love that. I love Soul+Strategy. Wow, that light that wants to come out and combining that light with the strategy.
Yeah.
We all have this light.
Yeah, we do.
That has to come out. It's dying to come out. And some of us suppress it because of just life in general. But wow, you just taught me something.
And I always say spirit, however you spirit. I mean, you can look at spirit through so many different lenses. and spirit however you spirit, but find that spirit for yourself so that you're really stepping into it.
Yes, definitely finding that spirit for yourself is so extremely important. And so you talk about so a message for the world, right? So we all have a voice, we all have a message. And so what is a one message for the world? And then as entrepreneurs, why does every entrepreneur need that message?
Yeah. So there's so much noise out in the internet world, right? I mean, we all build our businesses on the internet and in community, and there's so much noise. And if we follow all the formulas that are out there, all the marketing formulas that are out there, our marketing sounds just like everybody else's because that's how we built it. Versus if we build our brand from the inside out of who we are and find that clarity in how we're meant to be making a difference, that's where we start to get into, okay, I've got a different voice than the other person sitting over there or the other person, making all those posts. So really finding your true voice that you're taking out into the world. And the way an important part of that is elevating your message to what it is that you want to stand for. If the whole world could hear one thing from you, what would that be? And we're taking this up into a thought leadership messaging. And so there's we need to have marketing messaging. We need to have, so how we're attracting our soul clients into our business. But then we take it up another level where we're really stepping into the leadership of who we are and that leader within. And you're looking for a unique message that gets people to stop and think and act and do differently. And so, for example, if we think of Brene Brown, we know that she stands for courage, right? That's her core thing that she loves to talk about, and bravery. I have a client who is literally a rocket scientist, and she, her name is Dana Kirchmar, and Dana, well, her one message for the whole world is, what if we stopped asking girls if they're good at math, instead started asking them what problem they like to solve? And so we're looking for, and that's such a perfect example of that because we're getting people to stop and say, well, what if we stopped asking girls if they're good at math?
Mm-hmm.
And so she can really take a leadership role, a thought leadership role in how she's showing up in her marketing, leveraging something like that. And then she can go deeper into, messaging beyond that. But what it means is when I talk about finding your one message for the world, it means finding a thought leadership message you're bringing clarity to what it is you stand for. And it's your unique opinion. It's not a marketing and a positioning statement. I mean, there's a space and time for marketing and positioning statements. This is a level up, and it's a message that, if you start leading with something that gets people to stop and think and go, oh my gosh, I never thought about it in that kind of way, you're positioning yourself as a leader right there.
Absolutely. I love that you said building our brand from the inside out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when I think about that, I think about being authentic to who you're supposed to be.
Yeah, totally.
Right. And because we want to be like everyone else, and social media can really get us to a place where we're looking at other people's stuff and it's like, well, am I supposed to do this? Am I supposed to do that? And I just think back, and I'll just use a personal example. I remember 10 years ago when I first started sharing my story and speaking on stages, I thought that I had to look a certain way. And so if you look at older videos and photos of me, I always had on a nice, crisp pantsuit or skirt set, and my hair was straightened to perfection, and everything was just perfect. And I'm like, that's really not who I am. I'm a little edgy.
Mm-hmm. I like it.
I like colors. I might get on stage with ripped jeans and a blazer. It just depends on how I'm feeling that day. And so now, understanding that and, being able to have that message from the inside out. It's like, I'm okay with my natural curly hair and,
and that's a perfect example. Yeah, that's totally a perfect example. And it's like really learning to know who you are. I mean, so you talk about that edge that you've got, So how do you bring the edge into all of your marketing and how you're showing up on stage? It's a perfect example of that.
I love that. Can I just tell you, your voice is so soothing.
Thank you.
It's very comforting and soothing, and I'm just so toned in.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I hear people tell me that a lot, and they'll tell me it's a calmness, and I really appreciate that. So that's part of my essence, right? So if I tried to go onto a stage and be a Tony Robbins style kind of speaker, it would totally not be me, right? I have to be me when I go onto a stage.
Yes,
and that's how we build that.
I was at this event recently, and I felt like all the speakers that went before me, they were like yelling. And I told my husband, I said, everybody's yelling. I don't know if I fit in with this group. He's like, just be yourself.
Yep, good advice.
Like, okay.
Yeah, don't try to model that.
Yes. So we talked about the soul strategy, which I love. And so what about, what does a strategy to scale and simplicity look like?
Yeah.
Everything is strategy.
Yeah. So, and to me, this is really important because I think that when I look at what, I want to help people grow businesses that give us time prosperity and wealth prosperity. And that means like space to breathe. It means that, we've got white space on our calendars, and it means that we're energetically moving through our days in a way that is more connected. And, so we're looking for that kind of space, but we're also looking for businesses that can grow and scale. And so when I think about how do we grow businesses with, to scale, that gives us time prosperity and wealth prosperity, my response to that is simplify. And that means don't have too many products. If we've got 15 different products we're trying to market, we are going to be constantly going in different directions. But instead, get really aligned to that journey that you are helping your clients through, that customer journey, and help them. So you're getting into that space and you're like, okay, here's the first product I work with you on. Here's the next product I'll work with you on. But it's very clear to help them through this problem that they have, this opportunity that they have, this desire of where they want to go. And so you're just in alignment, and literally you're taking your product offerings down to 2 or 3 products and not trying to do too many things. You're looking at your marketing, and you're deciding how you're going to do your marketing, and looking at it from what's that marketing funnel that you're bringing clients into your business with, but doing it in a way that you're picking just a few things off of that marketing funnel, and you're not trying to do everything. I see a lot of people like just throwing a lot of spaghetti on the wall and trying to do all things marketing. And what happens is people just fill up. They're constantly, trying to promote some new product if they're not making that simplistic decision. And they also are trying to do all the marketing things versus being very strategic about what pieces they're choosing for that. And so if you're building, I call it a scale, I call it a smart business model to scale. And so S is simplify. M is really know your market well and really speak to that market, so that it's not elementary to go deeper into the niche. In fact, the deeper you can go into your niche and how you speak to that ideal client, your soul client, you're very focused in your marketing. So you're simplifying in your market. A is ascending, so it's the ascending product model. So that it's like one product leads to the next product leads to the next product. Mm-hmm. So it's a journey that you're going to take your clients on. R is repeatable. So having marketing that's repeatable, that keeps bringing your clients in because you're speaking their love language. And then T is time prosperous. So that's the way we really get into building a smart business model that allows you to scale, that helps you simplify and helps you have more time, white space on your calendar.
Yes, I love that. And so when I think about everything you just said, time prosperity, wealth prosperity, really equals to simplify. And I think sometimes we get desperate.
Yeah, totally.
We're not making money.
Yeah, and I've been there, right? I totally have been there. Yeah.
I know during COVID, I felt like I was all over the place. And I was like, oh, I'm going to launch this program. I'm going to do this and do that. And when I tell you, I was it just gave me anxiety.
Yeah.
Even when I think about it now, I'm like, I just had anxiety, just doing everything, thinking I'm going to lose clients. People aren't working. They're not going to be able to pay for these programs. And just, I was doing some of everything. When I look
Yeah. Yeah. And I so get it because this is why I teach the stuff I teach, because I've learned the hard way all through everything that I teach. I mean, I can go back to a story someplace where I'm like, oh yeah, I learned that lesson somewhere there. Right. And the simple thing to think about is if we're feeling like, oh my gosh, we're just trying everything. And like you said, during COVID is a perfect example. If we pause in that moment and we say, what is my soul client? Know exactly who you're talking about. What is it they're going through right now? What are the stories they're telling themselves? What are the things that are keeping them awake at night? What are the false beliefs that they might have right now that I can help them through? So if you're just asking those kind of powerful questions, you go, oh, I know where they are and I know how I can help them in this space. And you get really intimate with that journey that they're on. Like all those kinds of questions I just posed there, you get really intimate with knowing what are those conversations your soul client is having right now, today, so that you can really meet them where they're at.
And that's what it's about, meeting people where they are.
Yeah.
And I like your SMART business model, the acronym, the R, repeatable.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's repeatable. And then time prosperous, to me, are the most important ones there.
Yeah.
To repeat the process. We
don't
have to do anything new.
Yeah. And, part of that is the deeper you get into your understanding, being able to speak that to your soul client and where they're at right now, you build a base of content that you can repurpose, you can reuse. It's like your podcast here gives you so much content that you can repurpose and reuse. And that's where the repeatable comes in place as well, as far as like, what's the content you're creating on a day-to-day basis? Because we all create so much content. How can we repurpose it? How can we make that, that 1 hour webinar, we can turn it into a 3-minute clip for social, or we can turn it into a half-day retreat or a full-day retreat. So we can do all these different things, but it's finding all of your best teachings that you teach, and that's repeatable as well.
Yes. I love everything about that. Because we don't want to have to overwork. So that's where your simplify comes in.
Mm-hmm. And then you get really good at talking about what you do too, because that's the benefit of that.
It's funny because sometimes when people ask me what I do, sometimes I feel like, oh gosh, I'm repeating the same thing over and over, but it gets easier and easier.
Mm-hmm.
And, to me, sometimes it's like, they heard this before, but it may be a totally different audience. So then you become the expert and people know you.
A wise coach once said to me, find 50 different, or a pro will find 50 different ways to speak about the same subject. So I was like, that made a lot of sense to me, because you don't want it to be the same every single time. Even like guest podcasting, like I'm doing right here. I don't want every interview to be exactly the same, and they never are. That's the beauty of it. But I have all different ways that I can go into, all different kinds of stories that I can pull into my content on any given point. And that's what we're trying to develop.
And I like that you just said you can pull into certain stories, different stories.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think that we all have stories. We all have several stories of things that have happened to us in life, and just stories in general.
Yeah.
And so storytelling as an entrepreneur, why is storytelling an intricate element of a brand, right?
It connects, right?
Your business. Let's talk about storytelling, because I love storytelling.
Me too. I love stories.
Entrepreneur.
All day long. It makes me really happy to be in the story, and whether it's on podcasting or whether it's on stages or in just conversations with clients. And stories connects us, right? I mean, when we, and our stories make us who we are. So we kind of talk about building our brand from the inside out. Well, our stories really make us who we are. So the more we can bring our stories into our brand, that makes us real. It makes us relatable. People can go, oh my gosh, she's just like me because she went through, the same sorts of things. She gets where I'm at right now. And that's the kind of thing that you want to bring in to your marketing and your branding. It also can really help people see the journey from this is where, I was at this space and this is what happened. This evolution of me happened. And so you can really tell that story through that lens of evolution. And then your people in your audience can start to see themselves in your stories. And that's where you really hit on the right kinds of stories where they start to see themselves.
This is good. So what do you think about, what would you tell an entrepreneur, a business owner who was afraid to kind of be transparent and share their story?
Yeah. And I get it. I mean, it's that vulnerable, it's scary to be vulnerable. Mm-hmm. And what I'd say is no one wants to, and we've all seen it, and we've seen it on social media, right? Where it's, somebody has it all figured out and there's never a rough moment and they're just the expert. And to me, that I don't relate to that because I want to know the stories that got people to this space. And so that vulnerable moment makes us connect with somebody and people can relate to you. And, you can choose what you're vulnerable with. You don't have to, be, deep in the depth of something really, hard that you're going through. You don't have to share all of that in that moment. But once you get beyond it, and if it feels like it's a fit in your brand, then, if it feels like this is going to help my clients, this is going to help the people in my community do something differently. I mean, I'm sure like your story of domestic abuse was a hard story for you to tell, but now people can see what you have done and you inspire with that.
And yes, absolutely. And every now and then I have to remind people, I'll do a post and say, hey, I've got some new followers. Let me share a little bit about myself.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just kind of tell you a little bit about how I got to this place, because people will say, oh, I want to do what you do. And I'm like, really? Let me tell you how this happened.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, like I said, when I look at, the growing up of my business, I have so many stories where I fell down on my face and it just didn't work. And, I tried, and I would still pull myself back up and try to figure out, okay, what's the right way to do this? Mm-hmm. But I mean, that's the way, the people that go before us, we learn from them.
Yes, absolutely. Well, you're sharing so much amazing information. So I want people to be able to kind of talk to you directly. And I know you have the Insight Roundtable.
Mm-hmm.
And so coming up, it looks like you have Rock Your Transition from Corporate to Entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that and how can people tap in to join the discussion?
Yeah. Yeah. So I do these Insight Roundtables most months. I'm doing some kind of an event almost every single month that is a free event. So they can go to my website at camiguildner.com and they can get that. And the Insight Roundtables I love these because it's a matter of bringing people together in circle and conversation. And I'll pick a topic each month. So I do know the June topic is going to be talking about your journey from being an executive to an entrepreneur. But every month I'm choosing something different. And I'll have a bit of a teaching with that, but then we do some breakouts where you get to meet other people in my community. And some of the magic of my community is just the people in my community, right? It's like, I feel like I have really magical people in my community. I feel like I have very powerful women in my community. Mm-hmm. And so I love to bring people together. I love to introduce great women to great women. So that's part of that, I create an hour of connection and conversation around a theme. And so that's what this month's theme is going to be.
I love that. And did you tell us how we can join?
So if you go to my website, camiguildner.com, and on the the upper level bar, there's a pink box that says Get Updates, and you click on that and you put your email in there, and it will tell you what the next event is.
Okay, perfect. And we'll make sure that we share that with the audience as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, absolutely. And so, Cami, you are absolutely amazing. I've actually learned a whole lot from you today. I've learned about time prosperity and wealth prosperity and simplifying. I've learned the smart business model, simplify, knowing your market, ascending, repeatable, time prosperous. I'm actually taking notes here. So I know the listeners will actually take notes as well because I'm taking notes. And then that our stories make us who we are. It makes us relatable. It shows our evolution and our growth, which is so extremely important. And then you talked about other people being able to see themselves in our stories. And I think that's so important because it shows that we're real people. We actually, have things that we deal with. We just didn't wake up like this, like Beyonce says, but we've had to experience life and some failures in order to get to where we are today. So I love that. And then the Insight Roundtable, I think, is amazing. So I'm looking forward to sharing that information. But before we go, this is Living the Empowered Life podcast, all things living the empowered life. And so I would be remiss if I didn't ask you, what does it mean to you to live an empowered life?
I love that question. So living an empowered life means really being me. It means stepping into the light of me and turning off the noise of inner critics and that sort of thing, and learning to just step forward and be bold in our steps and say, okay, I'm going to go into that next stretch or whatever our next stretch happens to be. So we stretch into it and we step into it and we really stand in our light there. And, we grow and we evolve and then we, step into the next evolution of us and that next stretch. And it becomes a growth space. It becomes an evolution of who we are. And I think we're all being called to step into that full light of us. And I think that's what that means to me.
I love it. I love it because it's so in alignment with what living the empowered life is all about. We have these 6 steps to living an empowered life. And one of them is really walking in your authentic power. And so I think that everything that you just mentioned, being me, stepping into my light, right? That's your authentic power. So I was like, oh, it's so in alignment with what we talk about, what living the empowered life is all about. So I love it.
Good. Thank you.
And so one last question for you. Do you have any last thoughts or a charge for the audience?
Find what it is that you want to stand for. Take your voice out into the world. Don't be shy with your voice. Though I believe that women's wisdom is the medicine our earth needs. And so find that voice of you, step into it, share it, make an impact with your voice.
I love it. I love that. So find what it is that you want to stand for.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you so much, Cami. I definitely enjoyed our conversation. And I look forward to supporting all of your initiatives, everything you have going on.
Oh, thank you, Tamiko. And I'm so glad to know you. And I look forward to following all the good work you're doing.
Thank you.
Ladies, it's time to identify and live your life purpose. It's time to live life according to your values. It's time to set goals that move you forward in life and business. It's time to unleash your confidence. It's time to fearlessly walk in your authentic power. Ladies, it's time to live the empowered life.